Okay, the final step of making any track is the mix down and optionally the mastering. If you're shipping this off to a label, then they'll probably want an unmastered version and you don't need to master it yourself. Or if you want to hire a pro to do the mastering for you, that's always a good option. That could be anywhere from $25 to $50 and up per track, but it can make a huge difference in the final output. Anyhow, I was going to fix up just a few minor things from the last tutorial. I was going to add just a little bit more reverb to our drum loop. Give a little bit more space. Also noticed that the snare roll was just a little bit loud starting out. It's pretty easy to fix. If you highlight these, press Alt, and bring these down a little bit. I noticed that these were lower velocity later. That should help fix that too. Bars here, yeah. Okay. Also, this last trio here was too high. I'm gonna actually, I'm just gonna invert this last one. See how that goes. I think that's good because that C sharp 5 was too high. Okay, so we're ready to go with the mix down now. Actually, nope, sorry, there was one more thing I wanted to clear up. In our drum loop, I just wanted to take out, after 8 bars, which would be right about here, just take out the ride cymbal. And maybe for the last 4 bars, we'll take out the open hats as well, which means I need to take those out of these clips, this clip. Just kind of winds the drums down a little bit, lowering the energy as we come out of this. All right. Now we are ready to mix down. Okay, so one thing you can do on your master chain is grab a spectrum and go to one of the busier spots in the track, which is right about here. It's a little hard to describe, but you really want this slope in your spectrum. Why is it starting back over there? I don't know. And it's actually a little bit too flat, I would say. I used to think you wanted this whole thing to be flat. That is not true. That's a huge mistake. I found that the kick was maybe a little bit weak, and the bass as well. I'm just going to bring both of those up 2 dB. Puts a lot more energy into the track. I mean, overall things are sounding pretty good. I wouldn't change much as far as the volumes go. Try to be careful as I'm building the track. Instead of worrying about doing all of the mix down at the end. It just kind of works better that way. So as long as you're careful as you go, the mix down is a lot simpler for you. One other thing I noticed on some inspection here, if we look at just the bass, its fundamental is around here about -12. There's a few peaks that go above, but it's mostly around -12. And during the breakdown, this one goes way higher, all the way up to -6. So that's very inconsistent. What I want to do is actually grab for this, to fix this very easily, get an EQ8 and turn this into a bell and just go like -6 dB. Tighten this up some. Now you're coming around -12. Should be more consistent with the bass in the rest of the track, because that can be jarring. You get into a breakdown and suddenly the bass just overpowering for no apparent reason. the mix down's pretty easy. Like I said, I'm just careful as we went along. So I've listened to it a few times, and everything sounds really good to me. We've added some energy here with the extra kick and bass. So I think our mix down's pretty good at this point. So we'll go ahead and get on into mastering. Again, this is optional, but it is an important step. If you're just going to self-master this and put it up on SoundCloud, that's fine. You can do a few quick, easy things. So go to the main area here. You'll notice that the master is well above where I've set this at -6.4. Also, the only reason I've had it at -6.4 is because of the tutorial. It just made it where I could be heard. So we're actually 6 dB too high. I'm going to take a gain and just bring it down. And you're going to want to see that this is more, real close to this. I'm actually going to take it up like 1 dB, maybe 2. So it's really important before you add your mastering chain that you're at roughly 0 dB. You can just see it on here as well. At the end of the utility, there's a little bit of orange, so let me just go down 1. That's pretty good there, I think. On my mastering chain, when I do self-mastering, I just do a compressor here and do a gentle squeeze. And actually, I take the ratio down even more. You don't want to do too much of a general compressor on your final track. That should be pretty good there. After the compressor, though, you can put a multi-band dynamics. And what I like to do is you drag this over here and put it right below the highs, where the highs are. And then you drag down on this, and it compresses the upper frequencies here. I aim for about a -5 in this area, and then on the output you just do +5 dB to make up for it. On the bass, same thing. So give that bass a little bit of compression. I go for about 1.13, or I'm sorry, 1.3. About 1.3, 1.35 or so on the compression. I've probably done this a little bit too high on the highs. Should bring this down and compensate. And again on that, just boost that bass. If you look at the spectrum too, you'll see that. Let me see if I can. Your kick drum is all the way down here at 40 hertz, and the bass and sub bass, they're kind of all over the same range, aren't they? Okay. So put the low up a little bit here on that crossover. And of course, the last part of your mastering chain could be a limiter. If you've done everything right, you're coming in at about 0 into your chain. Your limiter really shouldn't be moving that much. And I like to go to about, 3.5 or 4 on this. If you go too high, you start to get weird sounding staticky effects. It's obviously a little extreme. I'll go with 3.5 here. Always, whatever you do, group your mastering chain together and listen to it with and without. So you can see the volume, the raw volume is about the same. Notice this kind of just brings up the loudness without necessarily increasing the volume. You want to go back and listen to parts of your track and make sure definitely seems to pop a lot more here. Now, a lot of people will put an EQ in their mastering chain. I don't do that. I figure if there's any problems with the EQ, I need to solve that by adjusting these sliders here on each of my instruments instead of doing an EQ on the whole mix. That's my philosophy. If you want to put an EQ in your master chain, you are free to do so. So that's sounding pretty good in my opinion. It definitely gives a lot more volume and makes it really kick. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and render the track. Make sure you put this. I like to use the loop indicator myself. And just set it here right in front of this, where this first sample hits. On the end, you want to watch your volume meter here on your master. You want to make sure that's 0 before you set your loop point. Still not 0. Okay, about right here was where it hit 0. We'll do that for just a little extra. You'd rather have too much silence on the end than cut it short. So you just select your loop and make sure your master is set to 0. I've done this a lot where I accidentally render at the wrong volume. The ceiling of minus 0.3 dB in your limiter should mean that the final output will have a 0.3 dB overhead on it. So that's what you want for a master. We're going to go ahead and again select your loop and hit save before you render. Sometimes it'll crash when you render and that's just awful. So you'd rather not do that. You'll notice the render start and length are set to the loops indicators automatically. I use a bit depth of 24. 16 is fine. I mean, it's whatever. I'm just going to hit export here. And as I was making this track originally, I also made a cool fractal, and it kind of looked like a bunch of stars exploding. So I figured a good name for the track would be Troubled Galaxy. Just hit save, and it's going to render out. So once that's done, you're done. Upload to SoundCloud or whatever. So if you followed me this far, you have created the exact track you will hear in lesson 0. You have done it. You've made it all the way. I've got more tools at my disposal in my plugins folder. I may go back and kind of spruce things up with those tools and create a extended mix, so to speak, with some bonus videos, but I might not. I'm not sure. So if you see more videos after this and you want to follow along, please do so. I'll unleash the power of my plugins here. If you don't, then thanks for watching, and hopefully this has helped you with your freeform production or just music production in general. Join us at freeformforum.net. We're pretty cool people. We can answer some of the questions you have about production or freeform in general, upcoming events, upcoming artists, all kinds of cool stuff. So again, thank you, and I hope this has helped. Control S, don't forget to save your work.